What is good, everybody? It is Mike Man WBA here, your coach of the West Bromwich Altarias, here to bring you the Division 1 power rankings for the Week 1 battles. And I'm joined with my Week 1 opponent, Parkzy of the Armor Armados. Why don't you say hi, Parkzy?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
So yeah, we thought we would kick off with our battle to kick off this week, just to get it out of the way. Me and Parkzy, I believe, will be bringing you the power rankings, if not every week, then most weeks. One of us might be unavailable on certain weeks, and we'll try to get someone else to fill in, probably Haz or JJ. But I think mostly it will be us two. But let's get straight into our Week 1 power rankings. So you won this battle 2-0, and it was a close game, I think.
Yep.
Bit of hacks involved, safe to say.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And a couple of crucial team building mistakes on my part let me down a bit, but some great brings on your behalf in terms of the Landorus Incarnate with the Focus Sash. Really probably won you the game at the end there, as well as your Magina set. I'm not quite sure what it was.
It was 4 attack struck a berry.
Yeah, so that would have helped you out a lot as well. It meant that pretty much the only thing I had to kill it with was the Naganadal. But yeah, so you pick up a 2-0 win with your Landorus and your Magina both picking up 2 kills and not dying. Your Seismitoad and your Garbodor going 1-1. And your Rotom Wash and your Megalopony going 0-1. Whereas my Naganadal, Mega Altaria, Superior and Crabominable all went 1-1. And my Mantine and Metagross not picking up any kills, going 0-1 for Week 1. So if we talk about the battle a little bit, to begin with, it was sort of a little bit of an antsy start. If I remember correctly, you had a couple of switches here and there in terms of like U-turns and Volt switches against my Crabominable, just trying to figure out what the sets were, whereas I was just kind of a little bit more aggressive to begin with.
Yeah. I think you knew what your plays were a lot more.
Yeah. Started to get the upper hand a little bit, picking up those kills on the Rotom Wash and the Megalopony before you started to turn it round. As I started getting chipped down a little bit, I didn't really have much recovery on my team. I don't know how much you had on yours.
I didn't have any recovery apart from my Papa Berry Rotom Wash,
which
and yeah, I think that was literally it.
Yeah, so both of us kind of struggling as we got chipped down, but crucially I think for you, you kept that Focus Sash alive on the Landorus, and you kept your Magina either at or near full health as well, which meant that I would have struggled to break it down near the end of the game. So if we have a look at the power rankings, you've kept me at 15th place overall in the rankings, whereas I've put myself at 14th. I think I played quite well in this battle, especially given some of the circumstances and considering how highly rated your team was. I think I did quite well. So I feel like I justified moving myself up a place in the rankings. You've kept me at 15th, and we can talk. I can either talk about that now, or when we get to who you've ranked at 14th, we can explain why you've maybe put them a place above me.
I can talk about it a little bit now.
Yeah. So
if you want.
Why don't you talk about that now then?
Yeah. So basically, I feel like the Week 1 power rankings not only are to discuss about the plays, but about the team still in general. It still takes into consideration the team, and I still think that I know that you made a lot of changes with picking up Nidoking and Celebi, but still with Metagross being your only stealth rocker on your team, I do think it's as viable as a team as maybe the other teams above. I think you played very well, and definitely the new team you picked up can be very strong, but I didn't really want to change much in the power rankings now, at least, and I just decided to keep you at 15th.
Yeah. And then we've both put you at 3rd, where I believe you started in 4th after last week.
No, I believe I was.
Oh no, you were 3rd already,
yeah.
weren't you? Yeah, you were 3rd already. So we've kept you where you were, which is sort of no slight against you for not moving up, but there were quite a lot of battles this week that were with some quite high scores, including the top couple of members of the of the league. So still very good, and of course with a win, sort of proving the week 1 rankings correct in a way. So why don't we move on to the second battle of the week, which was Jammu versus Spoink. So the Perth Polytoads versus the Des Moines Delibirds, with Spoink picking up another 2-0 victory. There's quite a few 2-0s this week. But Spoink, as you can see there, with the late game Protein Greninja sweep, with that Greninja picking up 4 kills without dying, as well as his Mew picking up 1 kill without dying, his Klefki going 1-1, and his Tangrowth, Miltank and Garchomp going 0-1. And on Jammu's side, his Volcarona picking up 2 kills and dying, Drapion and Mega Aggron going 1-1, and his Zapdos, Kamala and Sylveon going 0-1 as well. So I think this was a tale of 2 strategies here, in a way, where I feel like Jammu was very offensive based, which was interesting, I think, considering his team. He has a fairly bulky team in some aspects, in terms of he has Mega Aggron, he has Sylveon, Zapdos, and a couple of others. But he had pretty much full offense, and he didn't, even though he had Kamala and he had Zapdos, I don't think he had Defog on his Zapdos.
His Zapdos was Agility and I believe 3 attacks.
Yeah, I think it was Thunderbolt, Hidden Power and Heat Wave, I believe. Which the problem being then that he let his Kamala die far too easily in this battle. I believe his Kamala went down by like the 3rd turn.
I believe he had to sack it off the spikes, but he definitely lost, I believe, over 90% on his Kamala, because he tried to 1v1 a Garchomp, he returned it, lost about 80% of health after taking an Earthquake, and basically was dead by spikes, Stealth Rocks, and couldn't have a Rapid Spinner at that point.
Yeah, so that was a definite problem on his side. Just trying to find it, actually. Trying to find the replay again now.
I'll talk about a little bit of something. I was wondering why Spoink didn't prioritize Stealth Rocks due to the fact that his opponent basically sacked off Kamala, because Stealth Rocks did so much this game. They chipped down Zapdos even if it was his Defogger. It took 50% off Volcarona, and if you ever see a Volcarona in Team Preview, you should prioritize Stealth Rocks. Helped out with the Sylveon a lot, preventing it from being able to Wish Pass, and it also chipped down the Drapion that would have only had Sludge, Black Sludge for reliable recovery. So I feel like his opponent should have prioritize Stealth Rocks. I don't know what the Stealth Rocker is. I'm pretty sure it was the Miltank.
For Spoink, it is Miltank or Mew, yeah.
Or Garchomp.
Garchomp, yeah.
I feel like Miltank would have been the optimal Pokemon to bring Stealth Rocks on, and it just seemed like it was the best defensive Pokemon that could have fit Stealth Rocks in his team. So I think that he definitely had a lot of options to set up Stealth Rocks and Miltank. He was just merely Seismic tossing a Mega Aggron, whereas I'm pretty sure Jammu was just looking at it like, I have a Sylveon that I can wish this Mega Aggron up with. Even when he switched out into Sylveon, Spoink was still just Seismic tossing a Sylveon that was very clearly shown to be a Wish Passer.
Yeah. There was some questionable decisions in terms of the Miltank. It was just going for Seismic tosses despite being poisoned, despite it not doing much against mons that were quite clearly going to be able to recover it back. And it did actually look like Spoink was going to be heading for quite a heavy defeat here. But he knew his win con, and he knew that Greninja was the thing that was going to win him the game. But not without a slice of good fortune. He had to sack off a couple of mons to get the Volcarona low enough from some toxic damage. Brought in the Greninja. Went with the Water Shuriken, which was a good bring for him. That was some good prep. He knew that the Volcarona would be a problem. He had the Water Shuriken, so he could outspeed regardless of any Quiver Dances. So he outsped and killed the Volcarona. Got quite lucky that he got a Rock Slide flinch against the Sylveon, which prevented the Sylveon from hitting him with something like the Hyper Voice.
And then he proceeded to get a crit on the Sub-Zero Slammer.
No, it wasn't the Sub-Zero Slammer that crit. It was he Ice Beamed against the Zapdos later and got the crit on the last turn. But I think the Sub-Zero Slammer was a roll. I think that was the thing with the Sub-Zero Slammer.
It was definitely some sort of rules or hacks that was involved.
But yeah, the Greninja definitely coming in clutch at the end for Spoink. So I've got Jamoy at 12th. You've got him at 11th. He started the week, so week 0 in 13th. So even though he lost, we have both moved him up, because if we think, even though he made a couple of slight misplays, he did play quite well, and the loss at the end was out of his control. It's just the game Pokemon is sometimes. Sometimes you get the luck, sometimes you don't, and he definitely didn't in this game. And it looked at the beginning like he was going to pull off the win with how he played with his Drapion and his Mega Aggron. Spoink we have put in 11th and 10th. He actually started off in 12th. So it was 12th versus 13th this week. I've got him at 11th, you've got him at 10th. So one spot above Jamoy, I think pretty much for the same reason. We've moved him up slightly, but not too much, because a lot of this win was down to luck. He did play well at points as well. Definitely that Greninja was definitely the perfect set to face Jamoy. And getting the spikes with Klefki was key. I don't know what he would have done if Jamoy had defog on his Zapdos and got it in and defogged.
Would have probably have gotten swept by a Volcarona unless he got maybe 3-4 Water Shurikens or above.
Yeah, it makes me, I think, as well, if Jamoy had brought in that Zapdos straight after the Volcarona went down and had forced the Greninja to use the Z move on the Zapdos, then he would have been in a stronger position. But again, that's just hindsight. He didn't know what Z move the Greninja was going to be. He already knew. Well, he didn't know when he switched in the Sylveon, but he soon found out that it was Rock Slide. It could have quite easily have been Continental Crush. So again, another good bring by Spoink with the Ice Z move as opposed to the Rock one. Anything else about this battle you want to mention?
So 3 things that I want to touch on. Firstly, and most importantly, a disclaimer, so many minutes into the video, but these are me and Mike's opinions, okay? If you want to see standing videos where we don't have opinions, then be our guest, okay? It'll probably help us not get hated on by the entirety of our Discord. But secondly, we both ranked up Jeremiah and Spoink by 2 places. Well, no, I moved them up by 2 spaces. You moved them up 1 space, I believe.
Yeah.
But the reason why I can personally say that I did move up Jeremiah and Mike moved up Jeremiah was because I feel like Jeremiah was one of the best coaches that went 0-1. He played very well, and I think that because of that, he was very deserving of moving up at least 1 or 2 places. Spoink, yes, he did get a very haxy win, but you cannot deny he knew what his win con was, and he went for the win. He knew that he would have to flinch the Rock Slide. then go for the Icing EMZ, and he did. He pulled it off. So you have to respect him for that, even though it was a bit of a hacksy win. I would have liked him if he prioritized Stealth Rocks as the mill tank, but as Mike said, hindsight is 50-50. So yeah.
Yeah, and again, because you don't have the full picture here of the entirety of the teams, it could have just been that Jammu ended up bringing everything that Stealth Rock would have been good against, and that if he hadn't have brought either the Volcarona or the Zapdos, then Stealth Rocks would have been effectively useless compared to the Spikes. And the Spikes still put in a lot of work.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Definitely, like if the Spikes weren't there, I think Volcarona probably wouldn't have died to the Water Shuriken, unless it was like max turns of Water Shuriken.
Or
well, not max turns. Max thingies.
That's.
And also, I think the Drapion might not have gone down to a Hydro Pump. I'm not sure how much a Hydro Pump does, and it definitely helped to chip down the Sylveon enough for the Z move. So I think Spoink did play really well with his Klefki and with his Greninja in terms of hazards and then the sweep at the end.
I agree.
So let's move on to the third battle, which was I can never say this correctly. It's the Chilicothi Cloisters.
Yeah, Chilicothi, I believe.
Chilicothi Cloisters of JJ, coached by JJ. And
go back to Peoria Pidgeots, please.
The returning Nonzero, the coach of the Blacephalon Chicago, or the Chicago Blacephalon. Not sure which way around it is, to be perfectly honest. And probably the most surprising sweep of the week. Mashana.
Can we even call it a sweep?
Well, it was, really. The Mashana at the end. War of attrition it was at the end, kind of.
It's kind of just he walled out the entirety of JJ's team.
Yeah. So, Mashana going 5-0 was an interesting one. And then Blacephalon for Zero, the mascot, going 1-1. Serena, Mamoswine, Terrakion going 0-1, and then his Mega Gyarados going 0-0. Which, when you look at Nonzero's team and the threats that he has, you wouldn't have thought that the likes of Mamoswine, Terrakion, and Mega Gyarados wouldn't be getting kills, and that the Mashana will be getting 5. But that's how it goes. And on JJ's side, you have Zeraora, Tornadus, Therian, Mega Steelix and Dowmice going 1-1, with the Hydreigon and the Infernape going 0-1. So again, another weird one, in a way. JJ sort of, I think he slept on the Mashana a bit.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He did have Dowmice for it and Hydreigon for it, but he had quite a weird Hydreigon set where I think it was like a fully physical Hydreigon, and it just didn't do any damage. The
thing is, I don't think he underestimated Mashana, but he underestimated Mashana on the physical side and how many physical hits it could take.
Yeah, I mean, because it's got a lot of HP, Mashana. It's a base 116 HP. It has 85 defense, 95 special defense. So it is, you could consider it primarily a special wall, but it does have very good defense as well. And I believe the crunches from the Hydreigon to the Mashana was only doing about 35%. Yeah. So Zero was just going for Moonlight, and then going for a Dazzling Gleam, and then a Moonlight, and then a Dazzling Gleam, and then Hydreigon was down, and just whatever, nothing JJ had once the Dowmice went down was doing 50% to the Mashana, which is, it's not a shame for JJ that this Mashana went down, because he didn't prep properly for it, you could say, or he didn't once he was in the battle, he didn't keep the things alive that he needed to kill the Mashana.
Yeah.
Because that Dalmise went down fairly early. I think it was the first thing that went down on JJ's team. And then once that was gone, there wasn't really anything for it. I'm not sure how much a Tornadus Therian Hurricane does to
I believe it's about
a
40%.
Mashana. Yeah, but I guess because at the end of this battle, there was a very unfortunate thing that happened.
2.7%.
Yeah. JJ missed 3 hurricanes in a row on the Mashana. And while none of them in their own right would have been enough to kill the Mashana, if he'd have got a confusion with one of them, and the Mashana had hit itself in confusion at any point, then he was definitely in a lot better position to potentially kill the Mashana. Especially if it was on the first hurricane that he did. If he hit that hurricane and then the Mashana had hit itself in confusion, then the Mashana would have been dead, and the battle would have been over. JJ would have won, because it would have been then a Zorora and a Tornadus against Mega Gyarados. I'm pretty sure Tornadus and Zorora would have been able to pull that one out.
Even if he Dragon Dance with Gyarados, the Zorora was Choice Scarf to outspeed +2 Gyarados, I believe.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But yeah, so we've both got JJ at 8th, we've both got Nonzero at 7th. Nonzero started off at 9th in the power rankings for week 0, so he's moved up 2 for us. JJ started off in 5th and has dropped down to 8th, and that's it's not representative of JJ's ability and how JJ played in this battle. He didn't play -3 badly, if that makes sense.
Oh no, definitely not though.
All of the people that were below him in the power rankings had very good weeks in terms of how they played. So he's more a victim of other people's successes than his failures in this battle. Nonzero.
I believe there's only one team above him on the power rankings that lost. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's not bad by any means. Like,
Yeah,
he did
and
still do good. For
he's the
losing.
He's the second place loser in effect, I believe, for this week.
Well done.
So Nonzero as well moved up 2. Could be an argument for him going up slightly more when you think that you moved up both Spoink and Avo up 2, and I think Zero's prep was kind of better, but he let so many of his mons go down early, and I really was struggling to see the game plan up until the Mashana came in, because I definitely slept on the Mashana as the threat in this battle, but his Serena went down very early in terms of it went down turn 6. While the Stealth Rocks were up, he decided to go full knockoff as opposed to a rapid spin with his Serena. So the rocks were up, which could have caused a problem to his team, considering he's got Blacephalon and a Gyarados that hadn't Mega Evolved yet, and Mamoswine, all not going to want to take damage from that. Then his, I believe it was his Mamoswine went down really easily as well. Went down to Dalmise. Interestingly enough, Nonzero had the Rock Z on his Mamoswine as opposed to the Ice or the Ground. I assume that would have been for Tornadus.
Yeah.
But and I guess Ice was there in case of the Infernape switching or something, maybe.
I don't know about like Icy would have been better though. I think maybe.
Potentially, but again, we're not looking at the whole team here.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
But yeah, so the Roxy Mamoswine wasn't enough to take out the Dalmais, and then the Dalmais was.
Wasn't a Roxy Terrakion?
Sorry, yes, Roxy Terrakion, not Mamoswine. That would be why. That would be why I got very confused there. Yes, it was Roxy Terrakion, not Roxy Mamoswine. That will be why it wasn't Icinium Z.
Very impressive that Dalmais lived ahead from such an incredible powerhouse.
Yeah, it did 78.5. The Continental Crush did. I'm not quite sure what that is in terms of damage. To a Dalmais.
Like 180, 190.
I believe it was maybe full attack, full defense on the Dalmais, or maybe a bulky Dalmais.
I think bulky, but
yeah. So his Terrakion went down quite easy when he probably didn't have to risk it. Risk that Terrakion not killing or the Terrakion dying. His Mamoswine went down to Mega Steelix.
Yeah.
Was an interesting choice there, I think. I think he could have played that a lot better. I'm trying to think of what his Blacephalon went down to. I think it was Hydreigon, maybe?
Maybe Zerora, Zerora maybe.
It's quite confusing because a lot of Nonzero's nicknames were very similar to each other.
It was so sleepy.
It was it was let's sleep, let's wink, let's play, let's eat, let's swim, and let's fight. So it was very confusing. That's why I got mixed up with the thingy. I believe he died to a knockoff from the Zerora. And that was it as well, is that Nonzero would have known that the Zerora was Choice Scarfed because it outsped a Choice Scarfed Blacephalon. So he would have known about that play at the end, actually. It's quite hard to discuss this one.
I mean, I can
we've done it for a while.
I can defend them a little bit.
Yeah. It was like a battle of two halves. Up until Mashana got in, JJ was dominating, and then as soon as that Mashana came in, the momentum just completely flipped on its head. I feel like the only way that JJ would have had of winning once this Mashana had come in would have been if he'd have managed to PP stall it somehow. But
I mean, it's definitely possible.
Other than Regenerator Tornadus, he didn't have any form of regen.
That's a point that I'm gonna.
Didn't have any form of recovery, and then with the rocks up because the Dalmais had gone down, every time he'd have switched the Tornadus back in, while it would have gained a third, it would have lost a quarter of its health. So it would have only have been gaining 8%, which obviously wouldn't have been enough in terms of dazzling gleams and stuff. So yeah, Parkzy, why don't you talk us through some of the points that you've got at the end there?
Okay, so I actually watched this game live, and from the very start, from the teams going against each other, from the team page, so I saw all the 6 Pokemon going against each other, and I rubbed my hands, and I knew this was going to be a game where both teams were going to try and weaken each other's walls, weaken each other's Pokemon for a potential sweep. JJ was going to go with that sweep for either Zorora, Tornadus Therian, or his Infernape. Nonzero was going to go for the sweep either with his Blacephalon, Mamoswine, Mega Gyarados, and Terrakion. I think that's the game plan that they both played for. Nonzero, however, he played very well. He preserved his Musharna in the back that he knew could have been a potential win con, because I believe by that stage he knew that the Hydreigon was physically based, or at the very least that
I think he knew it was invested from it came in against actually I'm not sure if that had come in at that point, the Hydreigon. It come in to take a Fire Blast from a Blacephalon, and it Dragon-tailed out a Mamoswine on the switch. So if he'd counted that Dragon Tail, then he'd have known that it was in fact physical.
Yeah. Because
So,
it's a big difference between having no attack and having a minus attack nature than having like 252 adamant,
yeah,
say for example. But another thing is that you were saying about maybe letting Serena die off, but I think that it was a very smart play on Nonzero's part, because that actually turned out to be a very good way at beating the Tornadus with his Masharna, because I think essentially what he was doing was trying to knock off the Tornadus, trying to see if it was a Z crystal, and if it was an item like an assault vest, he would get that off. If it didn't get knocked off, he knew it would be a Z crystal, most likely flying EMZ, because it's a 20th Therian. Everyone
yeah,
misses their hurricanes, and JJ and now knows about that, about the old curse with 20th Therian, but being
well,
able to know that the flying EMZ was on the Tornadus, and then having JJ use that flying EMZ was very effective again, because he knew that by that stage, okay, I can't let my Mosharna take any damage. I believe he also had Mega Gyarados in the back till the very end, which I believe was the Pokemon he was trying to sweep with, but he, as I said previously, he was just trying to chip down JJ's team for either the Blazeful Mamoswine, Terrakion, and Mega Gyarados team, for the Mega Gyarados to sweep. And I mean, both these teams brought very offensive teams in general, so it basically came down to who can weaken each other's Pokemon first and get the sweep off.
yeah, and JJ knew as well near the end that his only hope was he had to kill the Mashana with either his Tornadus or with his, what else was it he had? His Infernape, because he needed that Zorora alive to kill the Gyarados, and he did save that Zorora till last. I feel like -3 is harsh, but
Yeah,
again,
but
he didn't have anything for the Mashana. If he'd have had something for the Mashana, I think maybe he'd have been up one more.
I think that dropping him by 3 places, although it's unfair, I think it would have been a bit. It would have been more unfair to drop other people that
Yeah,
personally
yeah,
had better games, and to keep JJ higher. So I
yeah.
think by
For
like
example, if
this is
JJ
probably the
hadn't
best.
gone down 3, then Nonzero would have still been below him, and would only have gone up
Yeah,
1. So, and I think on balance, Zero definitely deserved to be above JJ this week.
it was the better of two evils, basically.
Yeah, and I think with a bit of luck on his side next week, or just a lack of bad luck on his side next week, JJ should be able to bounce back with a win, because he started off this battle very well.
Yes, he's a very smart player.
Yeah, annoyingly. Next up, we have Coach Oak versus Cav.
Gosh.
It's very hard to talk about this one just because of Oak's team, and the fact that Cav's team was practically purpose built to counter Oak's team.
I mean, I did like some of the tech on Oak's team.
Yeah, so Oak had a 1-1 Toxicroak and Tentacruel, and 0-1 Quillfish, Weezing, Crobat, and Vileplume, whereas Cav had a 3-0 Excadrill, a 2-0 Hippowdon, a 1-1 Mega Pidgeot, 2 0-0 Amoonguses and Emboars, and a 0-1 Tapu Koko. So yeah, Cav kind of has just the two Mons that are the bane of Oak's team in that Excadrill and that Hippowdon. And honestly, I'm kind of surprised Hippowdon didn't get 5 or 6 this week.
I don't know. I think it was just Cav was forced into like a pretty bad place after his Amoongus got frozen. So I think he just ended up going into Excadrill and just trying to sweep with it, instead of trying to rely on Hippowdon to just take hits and then fire off hits.
Yeah, so also it was an interesting bring for him to bring the Tapu Koko against a full poison team, but I feel like it was there pretty much just for Crobat, because Crobat is the only Mon on Oak's team that Excadrill can't hit with an Earthquake.
I think it was for Volt Switch for momentum as well.
That too, I guess, yeah. But anything on Oak's team, pretty much, maybe not Vile Plume, goes down to Earthquake if Crobat is down. Honestly, on Oak's side, I'm very surprised that Quillfish wasn't Intimidate. I feel like...
No, I understand. Because he was trying to counter the fact that Cav's team would be bringing sand, so he brought Rain Dance Wheezing to try and sweep, I guess,
I
with
think he had
that.
Rain on something else as well, I think. But I find that if you bring a Mon with Rain Dance, it's always going to come out second to something that has an ability that changes the weather. Because I feel like, also especially since Wheezing isn't the Mon that benefits from the rain, he has to do the Rain Dance with Wheezing. He then has to switch out to his Quillfish, in which case Cav can switch out to something as well. If his Hippowdon was in, which it wasn't when he went for the Rain Dance. So as soon as Oak went for the Rain Dance, Cav just brought his Hippowdon back in. Immediately got the sand up, completely countered it. And I think Quillfish with Intimidate would have been better because the Excadrill... Intimidate Excadrill would have been nice. Intimidate on Hippowdon would have been nice. Intimidate on Emboar would have been nice.
Yeah, true.
Just helps negate that sweep potential. And so like if he brings his Quillfish in against, say, the Excadrill, intimidates it, Excadrill's going to go for an Earthquake. You can switch into, say, the Crobat or the Vileplume, takes it slightly better, and then you kind of force the switch at that point, and that's how you gain a bit of momentum. Then you can get the hit in, or you can switch into something else, or you can U-turn into something else. In game, a lot of his plays weren't bad. For Oak, he was just, or he's always going to be fighting a losing battle this season, I think, just because his team is going to be so easy to build against. He had some cool tech with the Crobat. It was Nasty Plot, and I believe Air Slash, Giga Drain, and Sludge Bomb, I think.
A Sludge Bomb or Heat Wave?
I can't remember which one it was, which could have done a lot of work. He also had the Ayapapa berry, was it? He had one of the 50% berries. In a way, kind of unfortunate, because the Mega Pidgeot was against the Crobat, did get a 75% Hurricane, and then got that roll again. I'm not sure if that roll is a high roll or a low roll in terms of 75% damage.
No idea.
I'll try and have a quick look now. I think it's kind of in the middle, 75%.
Alright, you look that up, Mike. I'll try and justify our reasoning. And as you can see, we haven't really changed Cav too much. Mike's put him up one place, I've kept him the same. And just generally, as Mike said, it's quite a hard game to try and judge. Because obviously I know Cav didn't ask to go against the team that was 16th and had a mono poison team, but it's just a hard team to judge, especially because all the other people above him played against teams that weren't mono teams and showed off really good skill, whereas I feel like Cav, it was kind of just Hippowdon, Excadrill, Mega Pidgeot, Hurricane spam because he didn't bring the Heligo, and that was really just the strategy. So I mean, if he gets another win, by all means, he'll be rising. For me.
Oak, I think in the right circumstances, can definitely pick up some wins this season.
He's got some power.
Yeah, I mean, there's some teams that would struggle against the amount of hazards he can throw out there. There are some teams that would struggle because they don't have a great steel type or a great ground type or something like that. And some of the techs he can do in terms of, he had the rain this week. He has a lot of mons that can set up, actually. Like, mons that you would normally think are physical, but can set up special, like Toxicroak and Crobat. And his Tentacool can be both as well. So I think he can keep a lot of people guessing, because he has the luxury with this team of just bringing whatever he wants. He can bring weird sets and just hope they work, because if they don't, then what does he lose, really?
And he knows what his opponent's bringing versus him. Steel types, ground types, psychic types. So
In
like
Cav's case, the only fairy type on his team.
yeah.
But yeah, it's a tough one to properly rank Cav for, just because of the gap in the teams. I've put him up 1 just because I think he did play well around. Like, he kept his Hippowdon back most of the match rather than keeping it in, just in case he did need the sand, and it worked out in his favour. So yeah, we'll move on to the next battle, which is MX3 versus Hughes, and this one you'll see is a 5-0, but you will notice that some of Hughes's mons don't have deaths, and that was because with the score at 5-3, Hughes decided to forfeit the battle, giving MX3 the 5-0 win. So why don't you talk us through this one, Parkzy, while I quickly try and find the replay.
Okay, so MX3 versus Hughes, and Hughes, I love you, but come on, man, come on.
Oops,
like
opening the wrong one.
MX3's walls were just perfectly designed to take on Hughes' offense. The Rotom Heat and the Clefable was for the Hawlucha. The Swampert could take on the Scizor that Hughes brought. There was stuff like the Nidoking that the Swampert could take on as well. Lantern was for the Tapu Fini. And a really interesting play, not an interesting play, quite a play that I was kind of scratch my head about in terms of Hughes' perspective, was at the very start when Hughes decided it'd be a good idea to sack off his Tapu Fini to a Lantern to get 50% off. And I acknowledge that maybe he was trying to catch MX3 over predicting or what, but I mean, he just had a very safe switch into Snorlax. I don't see why he had to try and
well, Snorlax or Mega Scizor, really. I guess he maybe didn't want to risk the burn or the paralysis, but
well, he had a Misty Terrain up by that stage.
True, and he could have gone into his Snorlax, because his Snorlax had Facade anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered if any of that had happened.
Tapu Fini was his main response to the Mega Gallade as well, so I just feel like losing that Pokemon and just instantly lost him a lot.
In a way, the Rotom as well, the Rotom Heat.
Yeah.
He went for Taunt first turn as MX3 switched from his Swampert into his Lantern. Went for Nature's Madness on the Thunderbolt from the Lantern, which unfortunately did miss. But then he just went for it again. And I'm not sure why, because I'm pretty sure Nidoking does ridiculous amounts of damage to Lantern anyway with Earth Power.
Yeah, and plus also it outspeeds. But yeah, I was just wondering why he would, like, maybe he was trying to get an overprotection, but I just don't see how the risk outpaid. Oh, sorry, I'm messing up my words. How the risk basically was worth the reward.
Yeah, he did bring a cool Snorlax set. It was Curse Recycle, but MX3 had that unaware Clefable there, which just completely shut it down.
And plus also Hughes lost his Nidoking, which was really the only Pokemon that was keeping him in the game, because it managed to check a good bit of MX3's mons offensively. It could break
managed
most
to check
of the walls.
the Gengar, the Rotom, and the Clefable.
most importantly, the Clefable, because Clefable was the Pokemon that was wish passing, especially into the Swampert. And
Yeah,
once Swampert went down to me in response to the Nidoking, then he was kind of just free to spam his dual stabs. But yeah, he just lost it. And by that stage, MX3 didn't have to exchange rocks with him anymore. He could just set up rocks, and no matter how many doubles Hughes made, he basically lost it. Also, I'm kind of confused about what Marini was there for. Maybe for a
yeah.
Cosmic Power Clefable, but surely by that stage he should have been a especially defensive Marini, because that thing took so much damage from Gengar.
I think it was Focus Sash. His
Focus
Marini.
Sash
I think
Marini.
it was Focus Sash Haze for the Fable.
Oh, why would you run Focus Sash?
Yeah, or it might not have been Focus Sash. It might have been something else.
I mean, it only
But
took
it
like
was just
six.
it was a really questionable bring, the Marini, against that team.
I mean, I do think Marini was questionable, because I can understand for the
I've
Clefable because it
realised
was just
I've realised
a
that says
nightmare.
Caesar at the top here. It's not a Scizor. It's a Rotom Heat. I've
Because it's kind I was looking at it, but
yeah, that's a Rotom Heat,
what was what was I saying?
and that's a Mega Gallade.
About the Marini, yeah. I mean, Gengar did 70%, so I do think it was Focus Sash, just because without the Eviolite, Marini would have just died after Stealth Rocks. But
I might have been.
I mean,
Yeah.
just bring a Max Spadef Marini. I'm not sure how much a Shadow Ball from Gengar does, but if it's doing 70% to a Max HP Max Spadef Marini, then just drop it for Rapidash already. Come on, Hughes, we're all begging you.
If I do that and make that level 100, there we go, Gengar. I don't think we ever found out what the Gengar item was, did we?
I don't think so.
But if it was timid specs, then the max it would do was 70%.
70.
So
Was it Specs?
I'm not sure, but if it was, and he was a little bit of special defense investment, so like if he was specially defensive, he wouldn't have taken too much. It might have been a 2-hit KO still, but it definitely would have kept it down a little bit.
It was something like.
But he got to the point where he knew that there wasn't anything he could do to break down the Clefable.
Yeah. No matter how many doubles he made, he just kept on, just because of rocks. He just kept on getting pressured to the point that he just had to give up.
Yeah. So we have moved Hughes down to 13th, and I think that's primarily bad prep on Hughes's part.
It's sad seeing Hughes so low.
Yeah.
Just because last season he had the #1 team, he was getting a ton of wins. He's always been in playoffs, but
I think the main problem though as well is that MX3 just has a ridiculous defensive core.
that's
with
true.
That Clefable, Swampert, Rotom Heat. There's not a lot that can hit that. So like Hughes has the Mega Scizor, which is one of the best steel types in the game offensively.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So he has that for the Clefable, but then MX3 just switches in either Swampert or Rotom Heat and completely shuts it down. So then MX3 would switch to, say, the Nidoking or the Snorlax, try and go for something, and then MX3 would just switch into the Gengar if it was the Snorlax or the Swampert or the Clefable, and just didn't do. He just couldn't break them down, especially with leftovers recoveries. I think he had 2 months of leftovers, MX3, and with Wish Protect from or Wish Pass from Clefable. So yeah, it's hard. It's a bit harsh on MX3 that he wasn't allowed to get some more kills on some of his mons, but I can entirely see why MX3 decided not to waste any more time and just hand MX3 the win. MX3 we've moved up to 2nd because this battle really showed how scary his team is.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because to be honest, MX3 didn't have to lose the Lantern.
Yeah.
He lost the Lantern to an Earth Power from Nidoking. He could have switched out that Lantern into Rotom Heat or into Swampert, and I think he'd have been completely fine.
think he just wanted a safe switch in to respond to the Nidoking, just in case Swampert or Rotom Heat needed its HP in the late game.
Yeah.
I can understand it.
So yeah, 5-0 actually being the biggest win this week. MX3 does move up to second, which I think is a fair representation of how scary he's going to be to deal with later in the season. So let's.
I think both of them are fair where we put them.
Yeah, Hughes, I think, can definitely fight back.
Oh no, definitely he will.
This.
Gonna get like 2 wins.
Yeah.
And then he's gonna say, "Look what you've done."
Yeah. Hopefully this is the jolt that he needs in terms of some of the plays he made. Just don't bring Marini again, dude. Because it did nothing here, and I don't see what it possibly could have done to warrant it coming over any of the other mons on your team.
Stats were fairly standard. Because
I mean, he has Celebi, and Celebi does some good work against this team of MX3. So I don't know.
Just the problem is that I think that Hughes brought a bit of a his sets were a bit too predictable, and then MX3 knew that his walls could 100% take on some stuff, like maybe, I don't know, a Mold Breaker Holucha would have been fun to use just to abuse the fact that MX3 would have to bring Unaware Fable for his setup or something, just some fun tech just to catch MX3 off guard. And
if it was Mold Breaker Holucha, then he definitely stood a chance of breaking down Clefable. But I believe it was Unburden and probably Seed for the Feeny. Which is another reason why it was a surprise that the Finny went down so early.
I'm pretty sure, does Holucha outspeed the entirety of MX3's team? Apart from Noivern, I believe.
Yeah.
Potentially. So he could have brought, he still could have brought Misty Seed Holucha just with Mold Breaker so that he could get 110 base power attacks. And then he would have, Snorlax that could switch into the Noivern and abuse it. So, I don't know.
A plus 2 acrobatics Mold Breaker definitely would have been enough to break through quite a fair amount of MX3's team. So maybe a bit of team builder mistakes from Hughes that cost him here.
I mean, as you already said, we're not here to really tell people what they should have brought. We're just here to... And also, I'm fully aware, Hughes, you're probably going to get now 4 wins after this one loss, and you're going to make fun of us for putting you 13th. Okay,
it's worth mentioning
get
that
wins.
He is... his Nidoking is being traded for Metagross, and the Celebi I mentioned earlier is being replaced with Superior. So he will have a bit of extra...
that's far better for responding to bulky waters.
Yeah. So next up, we had the battle of the first 2 teams in the Week 1 Power Rankings. We had second place Jack versus first placed Haz. And honestly, this was such a good battle for Jack. He really showed why he was the champion last season.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say he sort of he did outplay Haz in the terms of the fact that he won, but
it's fair to say that he outplayed Haz.
It was more he didn't make any mistakes.
He knew what his responses were for Haz.
It was more no clear mistakes than any clear, brilliant plan on his part.
Yeah, he knew, okay, if I get rid of this thing, then I can sack off this thing because it's my response to this thing. I need this Pokemon alive so long as he has his Electrode or his Aerodactyl or whatever. So yeah, you could just see Jack's brain working throughout this entirety of the battle.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember some of the things from this one. Haz's team was quite weak to ground and 2 rock, which, considering Jack had the Mega Diancie, was an interesting one. I don't know if he had... he did have Defog on his Sylvally to help with the Stealth Rock problem, but unfortunately for him, he didn't get to use the Defog. He used Defog, but I think then his Sylvally went down. The Stealth Rocks came back out before his Mega Charizard had managed to get in, and then his Mega Charizard got roared in, I think.
Yeah,
took
that was
50%,
really unfortunate.
And then got crit by Vaporeon and went down. But didn't play badly per se in this one.
It's just
Jack's plays in this were just sort of top tier. There was no mistakes. It was the right play every single time. A little bit of luck in terms of the Charizard coming in when it did, because I think the Charizard was roared in by Vaporeon, kind of by mistake, because the Aerodactyl was in at the time. He switched it out into Hariyama, and then that got roared into the Charizard, which was like just the absolute worst thing that could have happened.
I mean, he could have just kept on roar spamming until, like, I don't know, something beat him.
Well, the thing is, he would have taken too much chip at that point, Jack. Because if the Charizard had Mega Evolved, so it wouldn't have died in the next hit, it would have taken 2 more. And it was actually an odd number of HP, so it would have needed 3 more, and it would have been killed by Dragon Claws before then.
Yeah. My only problem is, my one critique about Haz, and it's not even like that bad of a critique, it's just a nitpick, is turn 14, Celesteela versus Nidoqueen, and expecting the Thunderbolt goes out into Electrode, which Jack makes a good play of setting up Stealth Rocks. No harm to Haz at that point, but at this point, I'm thinking Jack either goes for the Poison Jab, Sludge Wave, Earthquake, or Earth Power, or Sucker Punch, as Haz already knows that he has 2 physical moves and Stealth Rocks, and yet he decided to sack off his Electrodes that could have tried to come in against the Vaporeon and scare it out later on. And by that stage, you got a Hariyama, Aerodactyl, and Charizard X against a Vaporeon, which would have made it a lot harder.
I think it was Assault Vest Hariyama as well, so I feel like Hariyama was the thing he should have brought in against that Nidoqueen.
Yeah.
But
still,
I
don't really.
He brought in the Electrode went for Hidden Power, but Hidden Power didn't even do a third of Nidoqueen's HP.
I just don't know. I don't know if keeping Aerodactyl over Electrode was the play.
Yeah. Maybe just a couple of things there that Haz could have done slightly different to. But again, I don't think that was a game-changing battle in terms of the grand scheme of things. Jack, it was a 3-0, but I think Jack let them down more for safe switch-ins as opposed to having no choices. I think he could have switched certain things in at certain times to avoid or to preserve differential, but decided that he didn't need to in the circumstances. And in fact, I don't think that the Mandibuzz even came onto the field. No, it didn't. The Mandibuzz never made the field for Jack. So yeah, that definitely could have come in at some point to take a hit from something and avoid going down. So I think Jack definitely could have potentially had a 4 or 5-0 here. But again, it's nothing against Haz. It's just the strength of Jack. In my opinion, he is definitely a tier above everybody else in the league at the minute in terms of battling.
Yeah.
And then you've got sort of Hughes and Zero below him, and a couple of the other guys around there. MX3 around there as well. Very solid at team building, very solid at battling. But yeah, I think Jack is kind of in a league of his own in a way.
Yeah.
Honestly, really think he should be limited to level 50s next season.
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
So he
Only
is
LC, Jack.
Yeah, he has of course taken the top spot from Haz. I've put Haz in 4th. You have put him in 5th. So I have my list here. I have him just below you, but just above Cav. So we actually have our 1 and 2s the same in terms of we both have Jack first, we both have MX3 second.
Cover 1, 2, and 3 is the same.
Yeah, we both have you third, and then we have a bit of variation in the next 3.
Which I'll justify, don't worry.
Yeah, so I have Haz at 4th, above Cav and JP. You have JP, then Haz, then Cav. I feel like
I put Haz below
JP.
Below the other 4, just because all the other 4 had wins, and they had good wins. Probably not me, but the other 3 they won by 3 or more. So I just felt like having Haz above one of those teams, I couldn't do it.
I had Haz above Cav and JP just because, and we'll get to JP in a bit. His is actually the last battle. I think that Haz's plays were good enough to warrant him not dropping any more. Like I said, I don't think he lost because of anything he did. I think he lost because it was Jack.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to match number 7, which was Pac-Fan versus Avocado. And Avocado picking up the 3-0 win for the Lanterns, with his Staraptor getting 3 kills without dying, his Mega Latios and his Azumarill going 1-1, his Jolteon going 1-0, his Theraphorn going 0-1, and his Tyranitar going 0-0. And then on Pack's side, Primarina, Cobalion and Mega Tyranitar picking up a kill each and dying, and the Galvantula, Zygarde 10 and the Volbeat all going down without any kills. So this was a interesting one in terms of, I feel like Avo was never under any serious problems from Pack.
Oh no. Like I was watching the replay, and it's probably the only replay this week where you can literally sense that Avocado and his team, they were super confident, they knew what to do, and you watch Pac-Fan and his side of the battle, and you can almost tell he was a bit nervous in what he was going to do. He didn't really know what his responses were to each Pokemon.
Yeah. So even just from the lead off, it was Galvantula versus Jolteon. Jolteon goes for the Volt Switch, Galvantula goes for the Sticky Web.
Oh yeah, this was amazing.
Of course it does. I'm actually a little surprised that he brought Sticky Webs. Because the only thing I felt that they really actually affected were Jolteon. Because sure, he has 4 mons that are grounded, but Azumarill and Theraphorn aren't there to outspeed anything. Tyranitar, even if it Dragon Dances, just gets back to normal, but so much on Pack's team outspeeds it anyway.
And Jolteon was quite annoying versus his team.
Yeah, but I don't think it justified bringing Sticky Webs specifically for it, especially when he had ways he could counter it otherwise.
Well, I don't know about Jolteon, because we already discussed the issue in the week 0 power rankings of where his only ground type is Zygarde 10, so if he can outspeed Jolteon with the Zygarde 10, he doesn't have to fear being knocked out and OHKO'd by Hidden Power Ice from a Jolteon. He can outspeed it with his Cobalion as well, not have to take a Thunderbolt that does about 40%. So yeah, I
guess.
I'm trying to justify it. I can kind of see just for Jolteon, but I feel like setting up the Sticky Webs later in the game not just turn
Yeah.
1 would have been better for him.
Because yeah, he ended up just getting his Galvantula was completely outplayed there by Avo.
Avocado did amazing.
He volt switched into Staraptor and then U-turned back into Jolteon on the Thunder, which of course Jolteon being volt absorbed. The Jolteon was actually Life Orb, so that initial volt switch Life Orb damage immediately came back. Pac-Van then did get very lucky. He got a crit Bug Buzz on the Jolteon before it went down to a hidden power. I guess that is another reason why I guess that is the main reason actually why the Sticky Web was effective. It did allow him to get that Bug Buzz off, which he otherwise wouldn't have. And then it was interesting in my opinion that he then went for Tyranitar. He definitely wanted to get or to like scare him out so he could start boosting up.
Yeah,
But
I mean, I think
I was so
think it was
confused
fair.
by this was that his Tyranitar was Dragon Dance, but was then special.
was
And
it entirely special?
I believe so, because otherwise why would he... I don't understand why he would have Flamethrower on his Tyranitar when he could have Fire Punch.
Well, I think
the only
Flame.
potential, or the only reason why Flamethrower is better than Fire Punch in this situation was that he would have avoided Iron Barbs.
Yeah, I think that that's a fair enough reason, especially because it did get the 2KO on Ferrothorn, and
But so would a
I
Fire
feel like
Punch.
he felt. Yeah, no, but then he takes like 32, potentially 64% chip damage in return, and even if he was unboosted, he knew that the Ferrothorn would almost definitely be a physically defensive variant. So if he didn't have a boosted Tyranitar, Fire Punch might not even have 2KO
But
the Ferrothorn.
the problem there being though was that he then immediately, the Tyranitar went down to the Staraptor, to a close combat. So
I didn't get that
he
at all.
boosted. But the thing is, he didn't really have a great switch in, because I guess his only play would have been to go into Volbeat, and if he had encore the Staraptor into close combat, so he couldn't
Raptor
go
is Choice
for a
Scarf.
Brave Bird. Yeah, but Volbeat has Prankster.
No, but
I see what you mean. Sorry, yeah, it was Choice Scarf, so it couldn't have switched anyway. Was it Choice Scarf?
Ever since turn 2, Avocado showed that by going for the U-turn versus the Galvantula. It was also reinforced by how he outsped the Mega Tyranitar +1 speed during the Dragon Dance.
I thought Staraptor did anyway.
No, Strapper wouldn't have outsped the Galvantula.
Oh,
because it was the Volt turn core.
Yeah,
between
Galvantula's 108. Yes, you're correct. You're correct.
But then he could have went out into Volbeat on the close combat. He could have gone for the Tail Glow. Then he could have done the baton pass into Primarina instead of having to wait for the very late game to do that. I felt that would have been a far better, especially because Ferrothorn was down by that stage.
That was a very late time to do that baton pass.
Last ditch effort.
Because it allowed his Primarina to take over half from the Mega Latios before he actually got a hit off, which meant the Staraptor just came straight back in. I feel like he definitely could have done with doing that earlier. Could have done that against the Ferrothorn, to be completely honest. Brought the Volbeat in against that Ferrothorn, gone for the Tail Glow because Ferrothorn's not going to do anything back to it. Then gone for the baton pass into either the Tyranitar or the Primarina or Cobalion if he had any special moves on the Cobalion. I believe it was full physical though. It seemed like he tried to do the sweep too late with too slow of a mon. If Primarina was faster, if he'd have had a faster sweeper, he'd have stood more of a chance. But
my question is, it seemed very obvious that the strategy was to Tail Glow into Primarina. Why was the Primarina then not Choice Scarfed?
Yeah.
That could have done
Especially
so much
with,
more.
I guess he assumed the webs would have stayed up, but the 2 threats to the Primarina were the Staraptor and the Jolteon. Staraptor isn't affected by the webs anyway, and Jolteon will still outspeed
Over a
Pre
third
Marina.
of Avocado's teams levitating though. It's Gligar, Cresselia, Staraptor, Megaladios.
Yeah. And then Jolteon outspeeds Pre Marina even with the sticky webs, I believe. Because Jolteon is a base 130, and Pre Marina
Jolteon have to speed creep Zygarde
is only
though.
60. So
if his Jolteon was to speed creep the Zygarde,
I'm not sure what the max speed that a Primarina gets to is. If it's max speed Choice Scarf, it gets to 360. So for Jolteon to get to 360 would have only have been like max speed pretty much. So yeah, if it was Choice Scarf max speed Primarina, it would have outsped Jolteon in the under the webs, but the Staraptor was always going to outspeed Primarina.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess it's a tough one, but I feel like Pack didn't make any aggressive plays until it was way too late. The only aggressive play he went for was the Tail Glow Baton Pass.
I think he was playing turn by turn. He didn't really realise what his late game was going to be. He set up Wesgill eventually way too early. I think he pulled the trigger with Mega Tyranitar way too early. He sacked it off to a Staraptor's close combat when Volbeat could have very easily been the play. I felt that it was more expendable than a Mega Tyranitar. That could have been a good Tyranitar. Latios.
Yeah, also Pack needed that Galvantula as well, because it was the only thing that could one-shot the Azumarill, because the only other thing he then had for Azumarill was he went for the plus 1000 arrows with Zygarde, didn't kill the what's it called, the Azumarill. Azumarill went for Play Rough, one-shot it. He then went into Cobalion, took 43% from Aqua Jets before he could kill it with Iron Head. And then Avo was free to go into Mega Latios and defog the webs away. He probably didn't even need to defog the webs away, to be completely honest. But wouldn't have made much difference either way in terms of the battle. But Avo played really well here. He bought some really good sets. He acknowledged that Choice Scarf Staraptor was definitely a win con. He knew that
Avo
the Volt Switch core. Yeah, he knew that the Volt Switch core was going to be really key in chipping down certain mons. Didn't really end up being that way in the end because of how Pack played it. Not sure if Tyranitar got in at any point for Avo. I don't think it did, because I don't see a nickname for it and everything else is nicknamed. So I don't think Tyranitar actually came in at any point. I'm not sure it would have done much against Pack's team anyway.
But it was kind of just there for the Victini.
Yeah, so I have actually swapped Pack down to 15th, put myself above him, because I think in terms of the battle I played slightly better than him in terms of some predictions and in terms of the some aggressive plays. I think that Pack just played really passively against a team that he couldn't afford to be passive against. And Avo played really well. We've put him at 9th when I believe he was 11th to begin with.
So he went up 2 places, which is pretty good.
So we've put him up 2 places, which I think is a fair reward for his not only his prep, but how he executed his strategy, knew what his win cons were, knew what to let die and when. Because you could say that he could have switched out the Azumarill when the Cobalion was in, maybe to Jolteon or something, but or to the Latios, but just wanted to get the chip to be able to one-shot it with something else later on. Yeah, I think he played really well. Proved that he is a solid contender for playoffs this season. I think Pack, if he continues to play like this throughout the season, might be a potential, I don't want to be mean, but he might be a potential relegation struggler this season. He's going to need to maybe change his play style slightly, be a bit more aggressive, try and make some predictions a bit better, think of a couple of moves ahead, otherwise he could be in for a struggle. Especially when you see some of the talent we have at the top of this division. Sort of the top 6 to 8 are really, really strong battlers. And if he plays like this against them, then they're not going to be any under real threat, I don't think.
The only problem with Avocado, my only gripe, is that turn 2 he showed he was Choice Scarf Staraptor, so that could have been a little bit of an issue down later on in the game. But fortunately, I guess Pac fan forgot about that when letting his Mega Tyranitar go down to a close combat. So yeah.
So we're on to our final battle of the week. Gengar Raichu versus JP, and here we actually do differ quite a little bit. I have Gengar at 10th, you have him at 12th.
Yep.
I have JP at 6th, you have him at 4th. JP did pick up the 3-0 win, mainly due to his 5-0 Mega Kangaskhan. His Raichu did pick up a kill as well, and his Donphan, Heatran and Gourgeist went down. Yet again, I don't think his Haxorus made it into the battle. It might have, but I don't think it did. Gengar went one-on-one on his Hooper Unbound, his Mienshao and his Arcanine, but his Gliscor, Espeon and Araquanid went down for nothing. So why don't you talk us through this one to begin with, Parkzy?
Okay, Mike. You were with me in the TBF, weren't you?
Yes, I was in fact in the TBF with you.
Okay, so week 3 of the TBF, Gengar Raichu goes against a person with a Mega Kangaskhan, and he ends up getting 5-0'd. So this week, going against a person who has a Mega Kangaskhan the first week in Season 6 of the DGBA, which sounds like a nightmare, I know, but he goes against a Mega Kangaskhan, and I'm like, okay, Gengar Raichu is going to learn from his mistakes, he's going to bring responses to the Mega Kangaskhan, everything is going to be okay. What happens the first 2 turns? He sacks off his Araquanid because he brings no Rocky Helmet users to counter the Mega Kangaskhan. Gengar, come on, I love you, bro, but like, this was just disappointing.
Also, yeah, when you have or when you see a Mega Kangaskhan, it's gonna have Fake Out. Where's your Steel type or your Rock type or your Ghost type? Where is your Rocky Helmet user? I mean, to be honest, where's his defensive wall? He doesn't have a physically defensive wall in his team.
Yeah, I was looking at the team recap and I was like, okay, he's got Rocky Helmet Arcanine, because that's a pretty good response to Mega Kangaskhan. Because you get the Intimidate off, you get 32% off, you can recover up that wall, and you can potentially Will-O-Wisp as well. But no, it was leftovers for some reason. I don't really know if it played out into any specific damage rolls or whatnot, but I feel like Rocky Helmet on the Arcanine and even the Araquanid would have been a lot more helpful, because you got 64% off in the first 2 turns and it played out the exact same. And the first 2 turns, when he was typing in the chat, sorry, I've got a lot of information on this this battle, because it's quite an interesting one. But turn 2, after he loses his Araquanid, he goes onto the chat and he says to JP, that was a damage roll between me being knocked out by the return. So if I'm JP and I'm looking at this text, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
my opponent has brought nothing from Mega Kangaskhan, I better preserve it. And what does JP do? He ends up bringing Mega Kangaskhan. He ends up retrieving Mega Kangaskhan and ends up just getting kill after kill after kill because Gengar has no response to it. He kept on keeping it at the back,
Yeah.
and it got 5 kills overall.
Yeah.
And also, another thing that I was wondering is why did you keep Araquanid in against the Mega Kangaskhan, especially because Arcanine could switch in. It's either you were A, going to go for the liquidization, which wouldn't have knocked out. I did the calc, it does like about 80% maximum, even if you were like max attack.
I think it was a defensive Araquanid. Because it was JP that said, I think it's a roll. And then, which shows that he was calcing for defensive Araquanid. If I have a quick look at Mega Kangaskhan, if the Kangaskhan was Jolly, it only did 72 to 85. If it's Adamant, it did 79 to 93. And when you factor in that the Fake Out did 28, that should... sorry, that was to a not defensive Araquanid. If it's a defensive bold Araquanid, I say bold just for the sake of the defense boost, Adamant Fake Out did 22 to 26, so that immediately tells JP that it's not bold Araquanid, but it is defensive. And then Return did 61 to 72, so yeah, it was a roll. In fact, if it was max defense, it was definitely a max roll. So I guess Gengar can be kind of annoyed about that. But
like, still, like, it wasn't really a trade that was kind of worth it. It was either you're trying to get liquidization off, and you didn't even know if the Mega Kangaskhan had Wish by that point.
Yeah.
Or you were getting up.
Here's another thing. If you're not quite sure if your Araquanid is going to live, if it's going to be a roll, why didn't he have leftovers on it? Because if he had leftovers, then he lived the hit, and he could have got off his what do you call it? His liquidation, done about 60 to 75%, which it wouldn't have killed, but that is a good amount of chip on the Kangaskhan. Means that it can't switch in on anything.
Unless he was like Mystic Water for a damage calc, but then again, if you're going to be Mystic Water on a very defensive Araquanid, that doesn't really make too much sense. But back to what I was saying, it's either turn 1 and 2, he was going to set up sticky webs to go for liquidization. Liquidization, I believe, does about 60% from a defensive Araquanid to a Mega Kangaskhan, maybe 70, which again, you don't know if the Mega Kangaskhan has Wish, or else you're going to set up turn 1 sticky webs, which makes no sense considering that JP has got a full health, sturdy, intact Donphan in the back that pretty much is going to be guaranteed to have the rapid spin. And also, I said this from the week 0 power rankings, but Gengar Raichu, your special offense is showing to be very... you don't have very much special offense, and that was shown by how JP got his Donphan in, and your main response to the Donphan was your Gliscor. You couldn't even switch in your Hoop on Bound because it's so weak on the physical side, and so is your Espeon. So you then had to let him scout out to see what your investment was in your Gliscor. He got you really low, and then as you were trying to, I believe, heal up or go for an Earthquake, you got when he went for an Earthquake after scouting the damage on your Gliscor, he managed to get his Mega Kangaskhan again just to get another kill.
Yeah. Well, I guess if he had got in the liquidation, then he wouldn't have been able to switch in the Kangaskhan at that point. Because the Earthquake would have killed. But he let the Gliscor go down to an Ice Punch from the Kangaskhan, and I think that's a pretty obvious spring on a Kangaskhan. So I'm not sure why he didn't switch in something to take the Ice Punch. But he brought in the Arcanine, he did go for Will-O-Wisp, but then once his Gliscor was down, he was just Flare Blitzing Donphan. And I don't get that play.
Again, his special attackers are few and far, and they're so frail on the physical side that just, like you're talking about how there's not many physical walls that can take on Gengar Raichu. I think Donphan showed that they could take on the team pretty well. Just he didn't really have a good response to it.
Yeah.
Gengar's Raichu just seemed to come to, and this reinforces my what I was thinking about how he was trying to set up sticky webs turn one or two, because he had a nasty plot hoop on bound in the back. So I very much feel like his game plan was to set up sticky webs and sweep with hoop on bound under sticky webs with
Yeah.
nasty plot, which isn't a bad strategy, but you shouldn't deploy a turn one in the face of a Donphan.
Yeah. Just keep talking a second. I'll be right back.
Right, but just really like he should have brought Rocky Helmet Arcanine. I feel like it was just very it just didn't really prepare very well for the Mega Kangaskhan, and once like it was the biggest threat on JP's team. He has a Darkrai and a Kangaskhan, to a lesser degree a Haxorus that is his main offensive threats. So really, you just had a plan for the Mega Kangaskhan and Darkrai and potential Dragon Dance Haxorus, and still you just didn't bring a Rocky Helmet user, which again would have been nice even if he didn't bring the Mega Kangaskhan, or if he brought a specially offensive Mega Kangaskhan. It would have been nice for the Haxorus, getting chip damage off on that, getting chip damage off on the Donphan to break its sturdy. He could have brought a potentially a physical Darkrai, chipping that Pokemon down would have been very nice as well. Uh, but I don't know. I just I felt like I had to drop him down 4 places, which I know seems a bit too much, but I just couldn't get over the fact that I feel like he just didn't acknowledge and respect huge threats on his team, and yeah.
Yeah. I only put him down to 10th because I think he did get slightly unfortunate with the Araquanid, and if he'd have got the liquidation off, he would have been in a lot stronger position. And I don't think, other than the Mega Kangaskhan, he was really under any threat. I think the next
Haxorus.
Yeah, but I think he had stuff that could have dealt with the Haxorus, because the Haxorus only didn't need to come in because of the Mega Kangaskhan. I think if he hadn't have lost so much in the end to Mega Kangaskhan, he'd have had stuff to deal with Haxorus. I think he just he needed a one of his leads or one of his defensive mons that was going to end up getting faked out or was going to get hit more than once needed to have Rocky Helmet just to chip it down. So I think I've knocked him down more for his team building than his plays, because I think he actually did make some quite good plays in there. So when he was his Araquanid went down, he went into Arcanine for the Intimidate, immediately doubled into Gliscor. Then it was Gliscor versus Donphan, went for the U-turn, which was a good play, as the Donphan switched into Gourgeist, got a bit of damage off from Gourgeist, went into Arcanine again, went for Flare Blitz, but then went back into Gliscor there, got knocked off, which I guess Gliscor was the best one to get knocked off there, because he did already have his Toxic for the Toxic heal, and nothing else really wanted to lose an item. I think up until sort of near the end then, he was playing really well. It's just JP was playing really well around the Mega Kangaskhan.
Like, basically, after that point, he knew that he could only play passively around Gengar Raichu, and that is shown by how he just constantly switches in Gourgeist into Mienshao, and it actually works, I believe, the first time where Mienshao actually high jump kicks. But
Yes,
he just knew then by that stage that just his walls were going to be good switch-ins, and if worst came to worst, he could just go into Mega Kangaskhan again. Sticky webs were away and outsped most of Gengar's team.
Yeah, so I feel like the only real reason that I've got JP at 6 and not any higher was that I don't believe Haz and Cav deserve to drop as low as they would have if he'd have been higher. So again, he's sort of a victim of the people around him as opposed to his own play style. I feel like it is definitely sort of 4th through 8th. There is a gap between there and the few teams above and the few teams below. Maybe not so much above, because I feel like you and MX3 in 2nd and 3rd are not quite as far ahead of them as they are ahead of JJ and Avo and Raichu and Spoink. But yeah, so it's very tough week 1, because all we've got to go off is 1 week of battles and initial team building, like team drafting.
One final thing that I want to go over about Gengar Raichu's placement is that people might think that it's a bit low, but literally Jammu is my 11th, Spoink is my 10th, and I believe that they played very, very well. Won a game, one we lost a game because of hacks, and I feel like I can put Gengar Raichu above them just because of that.
I think I said it as well during the draft recap video. I think Gengar has a good team. It's up to him how he plays around the team that will determine how good it is. Because in the right hand, that team is a very strong playoff contender. But if he can't get the best out of it, then he's going to really struggle. And I hope that maybe after a couple of weeks, he sort of gets used to the team a bit more, and then starts pulling off a few wins. But yeah, I feel like the start of the season would definitely be the best time to play him, because as soon as he gets used to sort of Araquanid and Hooper and Mienshao and Arcanine, he's definitely going to be a big threat to some of the more mid-table teams. He would definitely be a threat to the lower table teams, and he might even pull off a win against some of the top guys. But it's entirely up to him. I don't know if he... I don't know a lot about Gengar. I don't know if he does a lot of mocks or anything, or if he does a lot of practice with his teams away from the battles. But I feel like if he gets a day off or on a weekend, if he can just do a load of mock battles with people, with different teams, then, and sort of get used to everything and what's going to do damage to what and what can take what hits, then he can definitely start moving up the league with some wins.
Just needs to identify the big threats in the team and know how he can switch into them and take them down offensively.
I think he has a similar problem to what I did last season, where a lot of people thought I had a very good team, but personally I wasn't used to the team or the play style. But then as soon as I got used to it, I started picking up a couple of wins sort of more towards the end of the season. So hopefully he can do that slightly earlier than I did last season. But yeah, I don't think he's a real relegation threat.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be relegated.
But if he does struggle to sort of get used to the team, then he might miss out on playoffs.
Yeah.
I think JP is definitely a solid playoff shout at this point.
Yeah. Basically, the people that are about top 10, I think, are definitely what you should be looking to.
I think it's the top 12 at the minute.
Yeah.
Are definitely. If Hughes books his ideas up, then I think he'll definitely do a surge up the table. But again, when he was up against a team like MX3's, you never know if it's just going to be an off week. So we'll have to see how he does in the next week or two.
The thing is, like, as Mike said, we can only base them off the first week's teams, and the first week, Hughes getting 5-0'd, the worst loss this week. It isn't looking very good, especially like just to see like how how much his team can just get walled out, especially
Yeah,
by
I mean,
wish
because
passing.
technically, like Hughes's team lost worse than Oak's team, but it doesn't mean that Hughes is has a worse team or is a worse battler. It just means that this 1 week he was up against a team that was better than his.
The thing is that we know that he's like people like Hughes are incredible and really good.
Hughes
It's
has
just like, oh,
that
come on.
undeniable knack for being able to bullshit his way out of any situation. It just was unfortunate for him that this week was a situation he couldn't bullshit his way out of. But I definitely think that he'll be picking up wins against sort of the lower half of the table. It'll be whether he can get the wins against sort of the top 4 or 5 will really determine his season, I think. But yeah, we'll move on now to the kill leaders for the first week. And a surprise leader has emerged in Nonzero's Mashana with those 5 kills, although he is joined by JP's and Mega Kangaskhan.
Sharna is joined with a Mega Kangaskhan in terms of kill lead, in terms of being a kill leader.
Then next up we have Spoink's Greninja with 4 kills. Cav's Excadrill has 3. Avocado Staraptor also has 3. And then there are a lot of Mons on 2, but we have got a Zalf, Landorus and Hippowdon in there, just because I felt like they were the key Mons for their teams during the battle. I could have, for Jack, because he had a Zalf and Nidoqueen, I could have put Nidoqueen in there. I just felt like a Zalf really did some work for him in that battle. So I think that is all for this week. I haven't actually got the fixtures on a slide here. I probably should have done that, but I can quickly find them for you now.
Is this like differential and all?
No, just the week 2
Alright, okay.
battles. So
well, I go against Gengar, so
yeah,
we'll see.
You're one of the ones that are lucky enough to face him early in the season.
Well, the thing is, I'm talking so much smack about Gengar. Imagine he goes and 6-0s me now. That's just gonna look horrible for me.
It'll be great.
Oh,
but yeah, so we have Pac-Fan versus Spoink. I believe it's Spoink. I always get Spoink's team mixed up. The Delibirds is Spoink, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
So it's Pac versus Spoink. It is Avocado versus Jammu. It is Oak versus Nonzero. That could be a long week for, or a short week, I should say, for Oak. We have Cav versus JJ. We have Gengar versus, of course, Parkzy. JP versus myself. Haz versus MX3. And then Jack versus Hughes. It doesn't get any easier for Hughes. Probably 2 of the top 3 or 4 battlers in the league in the first 2 weeks.
Well, it's the top 2 teams that we ranked.
Yes,
I have to go against both of them
in the first 2 weeks. So hopefully he can pick up a win there.
Thing is, if he beats Jack, he's going to be skyrocketing in the power rankings.
If he beats Jack, then I don't know what we're going to do next week. Just flip the table upside down. Coach Oak's number 1.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, that'll be all from me and Parkzy this week. Catch us next week, hopefully next Sunday, and hopefully it's us two for the week 2 power rankings. We will see you guys then. Goodbye.